Let's roll.
All right, Brett Caldwell, welcome from your car.
Yeah, it's real estate. Some days your office is in your car. Today's that day for me.
All right, so we're going to jump right into the good old numbers today. That sound good?
Yep.
All right, so Fulton County, the first week of April is here. Brett, we're seeing a little bit of a trajectory. It looks like a straightening out in Fulton. Not sure if you can see these on your phone.
Yep.
The last week of March, we ended up closing 274 transactions in Fulton County, which is the most we've seen going back to pretty much the end of November, the beginning of December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the blue line, and it sure looks like the blue line was much higher a few months ago, which is the active inventory line.
Yep.
Got a little tight there for a minute, and then we've slowly made a climb back up, but we're not near where we were, gosh, a few months back in active inventory. I think it's important to point that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as we scroll across, you'll see similar, if I drag on over here, DeKalb, we came real close together as you were talking about beginning of January, and we are working our way back up to a bigger difference in active inventory. You can see pending and closing have rised a little bit, but we're not much above that 200 mark in any of it. They're just keeping close with the line, yet there is a difference of about 200 homes active listing versus closed property. So we move over to Cobb County. We roll into the same scenario. Active and pendings are around 200, yet we just aren't climbing too fast. I think we're moving in that direction, Brett, but we're not separating too fast on Cobb, DeKalb, or Fulton.
Well, but it goes to the point, like, we're wondering why it feels like the market is as hot as it was a year ago. It's because of that inventory number, right? Like, we still have houses getting multiple offers. I'm still hearing crazy numbers over asking price, but not on every property. One, two, the difference of 10, 20 offers over asking price versus 4 or 2, it's still going over asking price, but it's just not as Wild West, if you will.
I'd agree with that. Hey, Rick Hale in the house.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
All right. Brett, any other
Looking smart with your glasses, Rick. Looking smart.
You're always smarter when you can see.
All right, Brett, do you want me to jump into any of the other counties?
Go ahead. Do the big ones, Cobb and DeKalb.
All right, we're jumping into Gwinnett. Again, the most closings we've had all year in a single week, 253. Yet the trajectory seems pretty straightforward from the last, beginning of February, end of January to now. Not seeing a lot of increase in active inventory. Closings are remaining the same. And it'll be interesting how this number looks over the next month with the amount of earnest money pendings we have coming in. Yet it seems to exactly what you said, have that feel of craziness because the active inventory is not increasing a lot.
Yeah. All right, Matt. So let me throw a teaser out there real quick. So we're going to do a state of the market, state of the Atlanta real estate market presentation. And we're going to do one in town and one north of town. The one in town, I believe the email went out yesterday. I believe it's on April 12th. And then the one north of town is on April 21st. We're going to do a deep dive into all things statistics, all things chart masters, all that stuff. But here's what I want to tell you and why I wanted to put it here is because obviously if you're on this call, you pay attention, and there's limited seating to those events. So the one in town only seats 150 people. So you've got to register. And the one north of town in Cartersville, we could probably seat 100. So I do anticipate them selling out, filling up. So make sure you check your email. And if you're interested, we're going to do a really deep dive into statistics. We kind of give you the highlights on this call, but we're going to go really deep. So I think it's important to kind of pay attention to those things. And make sure, Stephen, you can probably pop it in the chat for everybody, the link to go check out the events that are coming. All right, Matt, let's hit our articles.
All right. Article number 1.
I hope this is the juicy one.
Bombshell multi-billion-dollar commission suit, now a class action suit. Is that the big bombshell one you were looking for, Brett?
No, this the bombshell. I wanted the juicy one, but we'll go here first.
Okay.
All right, so this is nothing new. Matt, do your best job explaining it.
Most basic form. Potentially millions of home sellers can ask to be reimbursed for billions in concessions that were paid out from 2015 to 20. And this is basically moving in a direction where a judge said that was a class action lawsuit eligible. And this is what has come out. It's an antitrust suit, and it's against NAR and a few major franchises that are noted.
So why do we care? Why is this such a big deal?
I don't want to take all the glory. Rick, why do we care about this?
Because at some point it may change. It may alter the course of how we do business. Clearly, there's a financial impact if they actually win the lawsuit. And there are damages awarded. I mean, it's a big number. What was it like? I read it 50 some million, or maybe it was. It's a big number, and it is spread out among all the big giants of the industry. It looks like there's 3 or 4 named in it. 41 billion. Yep. So, but really the impact could be that at some point, instead of offering, buyer commission and baked into the commission from paid by the seller, it could now be that every conversation is a negotiation for how you get paid. So that's the big deal. And the argument is that having, a cooperating commission is actually good for the consumer, and it makes it easier for buyers to enlist with a realtor and have fair representation and delineated representation, but still the economics of that aren't part of that decision-making chain. And if this goes through, it'll change everything. You'll go in, negotiate 100%. A commission with a seller, and then the buyer, you've got to figure out a way to get paid by the buyer. And it's just going to make transactional experiences a little more difficult.
100%. I also think, the baseline of this is the seller doesn't get to negotiate what the buyer agent commission is. And so they'll negotiate what we charge them, but then we as the real estate professional offers a commission to the buyer's agent through the MLS, right? And that's kind of the premise, is that, we as an industry are pretty bad in the sense of how many times, don't raise your hand, but how many times have agents said to buyers, hey, work with me, it won't cost you a penny, right? And that statement alone is kind of the premise for this whole class action lawsuit. The other thing, Rick, that I'm going to throw a bad analogy, and y'all can all strike me down later, but class action means that it can be a very widespread, large plaintiff or defendant, plaintiff jury pool, meaning thousands and thousands of consumers can jump on board to this lawsuit. And here's the analogy I would give you, and why I think it kind of relates to our industry, is if you remember years and years and years ago, there was a giant class action lawsuit against the tobacco industry. And the tobacco industry had this class action lawsuit that said they were hiding health risks based on the use of tobacco. So what the lawsuit did, not only did it pay out millions and millions of dollars, it overnight changed that industry in how they had to package their product, how it was marketed. You no longer had the cool Marlboro man doing the ads anymore. It was You couldn't show children. I mean, there was all those things that came as a result of that class action lawsuit. I'm not saying we're the tobacco industry, but I'm saying this lawsuit does have the potential, as Rick said, to really change our industry. And it won't make our industry go away, just like the tobacco industry didn't go away. It just looks very different today than it did prior to that lawsuit. Does that make sense? I know that's a crude analogy, but it works.
No, it's pretty accurate. And class action opens up, claims from really anyone that's ever had a transaction. If you see these attorneys running around going, if you've ever had methylazoma, whatever that, all of a sudden anybody that's ever been impacted is eligible, and the landscape of the legal world and the way we're attacked could be interesting if that were to ever prevail.
I don't think it's a threat to our profession. I think it could be a threat to how we do business today. And Rick, and we've said this on here before, but here's our responsibility that we're not doing a very good job around, and we have to be better. One is, how many agents sign the buyer representation documentation at the time of contract? A lot. Wow. How many sign them after contract just because our office requires it in our compliance process, and they have them sign it just to get their paperwork through? Instead of, what needs to be done is, it needs to be signed at buyer consultation. There needs to be a professional presentation around what agency looks like. Because here's what I think the big conversation around this class action lawsuit really is going to be. What is my value as a real estate professional to a buyer? And would somebody pay for that? Have my head around that. In the past, telling people, hey, it won't cost you anything to work with me, that's a pretty low value prop, right?
Yeah, you have nothing to lose is not a good value proposition.
I think, again, being skilled set, what I'm hearing is, I don't know if there's, I've heard the question, what do we do now? And I think you just nailed it. How do we nail down our skill set, nail down our value prop, and get back to having buyer consultations in the first place that accurately explain the contract and show our value prop?
Exactly.
There you go.
All right.
All righty.
All right, moving on. Let's go to the juicy one.
Article 2. Rick, can you see my phone is ringing here? Did that switch
I
over?
can see that. Yes, sir.
All right. My phone is ringing. Home buyer demand soars to a 9-month high. All is well. All is back. It's going to be incredible. Brett Caldwell.
Yeah, this is not the juicy one, but we'll keep going. This one scares me, guys. And let me tell you what this scares me about. I agree that home buyer demand is at an all-time high. And I think our market's going to look really good for about 90, 120 days. And I don't want our agents to lose sight of the fact that I don't think that demand will hold come September, October, November, December this year. And what that means is we got to stay in the activities over the next 120 days to front load the presentation, front load our business for third and fourth quarter. And let's make hay while the sun's shining.
Yeah, I'd agree.
My opinion.
Now's the time to make hay. I mean, it's spring. I think it's representative of spring market. And even in the article, I believe it said, if I remember correctly, that year over year still is down. Not just, they're comparing to the last 9 months when interest rates started to climb. And obviously there's some turmoil in the market and there's all kinds of things going on that drives consumer confidence.
So
100%.
My 2 cents on this, Brett and Rick, are NAR just came out and said that they're predicting around 4 million home sales this year, right? That's the most recent update. That's quite a decline from even 6 months ago when they indicated. Yet the trajectory now and what we're looking at is showing around 5 million. So to me, that says NAR is still predicting this. What should we prepare for? And Gary Keller's saying this too. And if he's wrong, we're going to all be happy and we'll be in the best position. But if he's right, you want to be prepared for, hey, don't get too excited now. The winter is still coming and we could see a dramatic slowdown in the winter, especially since NAR is still predicting 4 million home sales. And if
Matt, I listen to what you're saying, and I used to get really discouraged by it. Like, I used to go, man, I'm tired of people in leadership positions telling me the world's going to fall apart all the time. And I learned over my course of my career that, if we take that black hat approach, we may be right, but if we're wrong, like you said, everybody will be happy. Yet it's still a prediction.
Yep. Even if the market's cut in half and you follow the economic model in the Murray system and your conversion is 12-2 or 6-1. So what if it's cut in half? That just means you have to have 24 contacts in your each per opportunity to buy or help someone buy or sell a home. So you just have to double down on your numbers, double down on your contacts, double down on your tracking. And regardless, and I don't see a 50% reduction. So you just have to get your unfair share and get okay with that and recognize, some of this may be contingent on, again, current events and news and energy and consumer confidence, but also interest rates, which have proven pretty volatile of late.
The fun thing, we just finished March Madness and my bracket, but did not look great. But that's because I had a bunch of number one seeds expected to win. Truth is sometimes it's the underdogs that win the biggest and they fight harder. And that's really what this conversation is who's going to go out and do the work and the activities to cause business to happen. And when the market turns or never turns, you're still going to win.
That's it.
And
all right, so Matt, you can pull it down. I'll just explain what that third article was. So there's an article on the Atlanta Business Chronicle that talks about how baby boomers have now exceeded millennials in home purchasing. And it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek article. But the truth is, it's not that the baby boomers were buying and selling more real estate than they had in the past. It's the fact that the millennials are buying less real estate than they did in the past. And guys, we got a problem in our industry because first-time home buyers, it's unaffordable right now. And there is a chunk of people that ready, willing, and able would buy real estate, but they can't because they're priced out of the market. There's not affordable housing within a geographic area that's desirable for them to live, all those things. So what, you want to comment on that, or you want to go into prescription conversation?
I mean, I think it's kind of obvious as affordability continues to be stretched and challenged, higher debt ratios and school debt, as well as interest rate increases, just makes it more difficult. And it changes, it reduces the ceiling of capacity for a millennial and someone who's not really braced. And the article goes into detail talking about one of the benefits that boomers have is they've probably bought and sold 1, 2, 3, 4 houses. And that's a real path to accumulation of wealth. And you get rollover minutes and you get pay down of the mortgage and you get your initial down payment back. And, when you transition from one home to another versus a first-time home buyer. So it's just two different conversations. I also see this a little bit that there's some pent-up capacity to buy that now the market's kind of a little less crazy train, and that there are probably some boomers with capital and credit who are seeing opportunities they didn't see a year ago or didn't want to compete with 7 offers.
Yep.
Yeah. Matt, what do you think?
I agree. And then I look at the population of younger millennials who are coming into the age of, they were talking about 30-40% over the next 5 years to be ready to buy. And I think of what we're talking to agents, I think we're going to get a prescription here, but education through social media on the benefits of home ownership has been one of the biggest things we discuss in all of our leadership training and all of our training in the office, because they're on social media and they need to understand the benefits. So I see it as a huge opportunity too. And you just see the success of some of the millennial agents we have in the office. I'm not sure, Brett, that it's not going to be a huge opportunity in the next 5 years versus a huge problem right now.
Sure.
I agree. I think any problem becomes an opportunity with the right mindset. And that's really where I think prescription kind of comes in right now, because here's my thoughts, and this is raw thoughts. So y'all help me, but it wasn't 20, 30 years ago. Parents were very involved in buying their adult children their first house, and they were involved in the process of helping them buy their first house. And then we went through a period of time where it just didn't feel like the parents were very involved outside of bad advice, and we've all dealt with that. Involved in the process of their adult children buying a house. But I think the future trajectory of this conversation is the parents are going to be more involved with the process of helping their adult children buy their first house. And if that's the case, how are we strategically positioning for that conversation? Meaning, do I have my 201 people in my sphere of influence? How many of them have a millennial non-homeowner adult child in their house or renting, that if I help them see the benefits of helping them buy a house, would consider helping them buy that house? Or I was just thinking, like, man, the adult child that's still living on the couch, right? Like, at some point in time, you might help them buy a house to get out of your house, right? Or I was thinking, and I'll do this and then I'll shut up and let y'all comment. But my last one was, why wouldn't I be taking a booth at a bridal show, and on my booth talk about all the tax benefits of doing a gift payment to your child, or all the tax benefits of helping co-sign on their first house, and really trying to market my messaging to the parent that's going to help, in addition to the couple that's looking to buy that first house. Does that make sense? I might change my messaging, I think.
Rick, I'll let you go first.
I agree. I mean, the catch is here that you need a strong consulting approach, a consultative approach, where you go ahead and prescribe a prescript, a dozen or 15 or 20 really good questions to make sure that if there's a door, you've got the key to unlock it so that they see potential. And you want to create opportunity to think beyond their immediate struggle and challenge. And one of those ways is gift funds. It might be a 401k loan to yourself. It could be, at some point, I mean, when times get sticky and interest rates really climb, owner financing, there are people with equity right now that might consider, and a question unasked is a question unanswered.
Yeah. So I saw a stat the other day, 49% of 18 to 29-year-olds still live at home. Right. So that's twofold. One, when you're looking for adults who need to buy a home, there's probably an opportunity for a secondary living arrangement there. Number two is, if you're not communicating all these points that Rick just mentioned on social media, where 99.9% of all these eyeballs are, and you're getting ahead of that, what story are these millennials telling themselves? And what story are they going to believe from their parents and from the media on the housing market and options for them to actually buy? Because the people they are listening to, for the most part, are on social media, and they're telling you, 60% of them are telling you why renting is the greatest idea in the world. And if you're not ahead of that on platforms that they are looking at and listening to, then you have no shot when it comes to that huge opportunity of people that are jumping into the real estate buying arena soon.
Yeah. And I'd warn you too, when you blanket an entire group like millennials, I just pulled it up to confirm what I thought true. And man, millennials were born in 81 to 96. They're 27 to 42. There's such a different experience at 27 than at 42. So again, we're kind of bracketing some clickbait, talking
100%.
about a
Well,
massive
I'm just
range
using
of
the news article. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And Gen X 43 to 58. I'm 57. I'm 1 year off or 2 years off from being a boomer. So just realize every person has their own story, their own experience. There's some 27-year-olds that are banking, that have great credit and capacity. There's 42-year-olds that are never own a house. So I think it's a one-on-one. It's how many people can you have an inspired conversation about building wealth in real estate?
Yep.
That's what
I think we've got to take the responsibility of educating ourselves with some of these dialogues that we may not have had to do in the past. Like, what does the tax benefit of a $50,000 gift fund do for me if I'm a tax-paying individual and I need to help my adult child get into a house? What does giving them a gift fund do for me? What does co-signing do for me? I need to educate myself a little more around those tax benefits so I can speak intelligently. Because what I think, Matt, I think there's going to be some smart real estate professionals that are going to double down on first-time homebuyer seminars in the next couple of years. And that seminar is going to look very different than when you and I did it a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably going to have some more messaging to parents. It's probably going to have some more messaging around affordability and interest rates. And it's probably going to evolve a little bit, although a lot of the foundation will be the same.
Yep. And that's another reason why everyone here should invite everyone they know to these industry updates that we're having in town and out of town, because we will go so much deeper into these stats and these scenarios that you can't have these educational based conversations that are going to be so important over the next market that we may have gotten away with over the last few years.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And Stephen put the link in the chat. It's just the realestatestats.com/events.
Hey, I think
That's,
Richard Davis, were you coming off mute?
Yes. Real quick, do we have any resources for NKW for those like tax strategies or this information that you're talking about that we could add to some of the strategies we have communicating with our clients?
Yeah, I tell you what, I'll do the research and make sure it's in the stats presentations we do on the market update.
Much appreciated.
So
that'd be great. That'd be great because I don't know any of those benefits. I could really benefit from learning some of it.
I think I would also take some time and invest, with the 2 or 3 people in your office that are, the different companies. We often have more than one that do lending, and go to lunch, grab coffee and say, hey, what are you seeing on the landscape and the horizon for potential opportunities to help people ease into homes more gracefully? What new products, what new, they're doing 2-1 buy downs. There's just variable things. People are moving to variable interest rates or, fixed for 5 years. So the key here is you almost need your own version of clickbait that inspires someone to ask, the next level question. Hey, have you thought about, were you aware of? And you want that invitation to be received in a way that they want to have conversations. And again, the more knowledgeable you are about lending, I don't think there are people who are 30 to 50 that aren't in a home that wouldn't like to have a home. It's just the how question needs to be answered.
Hey, Jeff and Richard, if y'all email me at that email address below, and I'll send this to Brett too, we can get it out to the group. But KW did a whole basically playbook on mortgage hacks. This is one of them, called gift funds. It's a way to hack mortgages. That was done over 30 days ago, so it's very recent. So I can send you that. It's about 15 pages of mortgage hacks in real time if you haven't seen that. And number 2 is exactly what Rick said. If you go to your preferred lender who's doing over 10 deals a month, they're seeing scenarios like this right now that they can help educate on, and you can get that out to your people.
Love it.
You got my attention with the word mortgage hacks. That's a perfect clip.
Hack sounds cool.
Who doesn't want a shortcut or a path to saving?
Yeah, your team leader has them too. They're awesome little playbooks, and mortgage hacks is one of the best one we've done in team meeting. So
Cool,
Good.
guys.
All right, we start and end on time. Have a good one.
you guys.
See you guys.